All right.
Susan needs to unmute.
She will when it comes time. We're not ready to pray. I'll tell her when, Chris. Thank you. Anyway, I want to welcome everyone to the Fellowship of Spirit Sunday morning. This is the 27th of September. Beautiful fall day here. And we're just happy that you are here and that everyone is and everyone's welcome. We have one newcomer, Steve, who was with Annie, and I don't recognize. I know everyone else here, so we want to welcome Steve. His first time here, but he's a good friend of Annie's, and Annie's a good friend of everyone. So we're glad that you're here. So we're going to have some time for announcements, and I want a full recap, Linda, on your talk over for San Francisco whenever we come time for that. Okay. Anyway, so let's begin by praying. Susan, go ahead. You have to there you go.
There I am. Creator, Mother, Father, God, we give thanks for this opportunity to be together, even though we have been told we cannot be together, and yet we are. Let us recognize our oneness with you, with each other. We give thanks for all of the great opportunities that we can find out of this situation, and know that the end is always in your light, and there is only goodness. We give thanks for our great health, for our abilities to share with one another all the things that have come our way. We give thanks for the people who help to keep this fellowship going. We give thanks for every one of our speakers. We are so grateful that we have this great opportunity to be together, to share together, and to love one another. And we ask this in the name of the Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you, Susan. That was a very good prayer. Linda, can you tell us about your talk last week at the San Francisco church? How did it go?
It went really well. I was worried about our internet because it's been going on and off and on and off. And I thought, oh, yeah, right in the middle of it, it'll go off. But my daughter brought this little, I don't know what you call it, a little hotspot that she had. And so it went really well.
Well, that's great. We're really proud of you. And we know that you did really well representing yourself as well as Fellowship of Spirit. And we're just happy because your message was wonderful, and we're glad that you're able to expand out and share with other people in the world. So
but they asked me if I would come again, and I'm like, nah, no, not really. So we'll see.
But you're going to continue to speak for us, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, that's great. All right. Fred, today we have a great program for you. Neva is going to read a spiritual reading, and Fred is going to do our musical. Mark Wolf has our message today, and they're all A-listers. They're all good people with good messages and good talent, and we are happy to have each and every one of them. So, Fred, are you ready for singing us a song?
I sure hope so.
Okay, thank you, Fred.
There we go. Well, can y'all hear me well? I changed my microphone settings so it doesn't go up and down while I'm playing, so hopefully it stays a consistent level.
Sounds really good. We like your background of Angie better than your dog. I mean, we like your dog, but we really love Angie as your background. So really good.
Right on. Of course, this song is a song that I really like a lot and plays over and over in my mind often for many reasons. I'm sure it's one of your guys' favorites too. It's the title of an album. I'm going to play in a slightly different key than the original. Besides that, it's the same song. For me, this week was a really trying week of, I guess you'd say, projection and a little bit of introspection, given the state of our country and the state of our politics. It just really got to me. So this song is a good thing to run in your mind whenever you find those challenges that we find every day in the public square. So this is Let It Be. When I find myself in times, oh, funky. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. This'll work. There we go. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Lord, let it be. Speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And when broken hearted people living in this world agree, then there'll be an answer, Lord, let it be. Though that may be far, there is still a chance that they will see that there will be an answer, Lord, let it be. Lord, let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. There can be an answer. Let it be. And when the night is cloudy, there is still a chance that turns on me. Shine until tomorrow, let it be. I wake up to the sound of music, and Mother Mary comes to me, speaking those words of wisdom. She says, let it be. Oh, let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be, Lord. There's gonna be an answer, son. Let it be. Oh, let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. There will be an answer.
Thank you, Fred. All right.
Thank you.
Lots of passion in that one. Isn't it wonderful that we have a place of sanctuary that we can come for at least for an hour on Sunday morning, come together and not have all the stuff of the world around us. We can focus on our love and our connection, our spiritual connection that goes beyond anything that any political thing or any tragedy or anything that could happen we can get beyond that whenever we focus on the spiritual. Isn't it really good to have a place to come and do that? So thank you, Fred.
My pleasure.
Okay. We need to let Neva to do her thing. She's going to read our spiritual reading today, but she has family from out of town. So she's going to read and run today, and that's going to be okay. So Neva, are you ready?
Okay. I debated about this reading, but after what I've heard this morning, I think it's going to fit right in. So I hope you think so too. This is from A Course of Mysticism and Miracles, John Mundy. As you know, he's one of my favorites. And he deals a lot with Course in Miracles. I've decided on just the conclusion of his book, Walking the Mystical Path. And it's a condensed version. I didn't want to go on all morning for you guys. It is fair to say that many folks today are abandoning traditional religion in favor of a deeper, more contemplative, spiritual life. Mysticism is becoming more mainstream, and religious dogma is less likely to be accepted without question. Whatever the spiritual discipline or path, Sufism, A Course in Miracles, A Course of Love, Buddhism, Taoism, Gnosticism, yoga, mystical Christianity, the Kabbalah, or perhaps your own unique inner path. They all reflect one universal journey that leads to a unitive goal. More and more people are now ready to embark on this journey. They are ready to walk the mystical path. This can be extremely difficult to do in our often frenetic modern world, however. Invite an enlightened man to take on a $2,500 a month mortgage, 3 kids, a dog and cat, a wife who nags, a repetitive, boring job, and an angry boss, insurance bills, credit card bills, taxes, and more, and see if enlightenment lasts. If you think you are enlightened, try raising a teenager. Like Helen Schuckman, we must withstand continual tests and trials along the way before we arrive at a place where God is all we know, all we see, and all we love. Acceptance and forgiveness can easily be lost in the tangled web relationships that hamper our progress on our journey. We may think we are beyond judgment, and then unexpectedly, we make a judgment. Perhaps not as quickly as previously, but a judgment nonetheless. We may think we have achieved forgiveness, but the ego often slips in the back door when we aren't looking and pulls us back into its world of illusion. Despite these challenges, the mystical path is a gentle path that can lead you out of the ego world and into oneness. It makes no demands. There are no pledges to sign, no dues to pay. There are no rules or regulations. There are no magical formulas, no mysteries, no secrets, no oaths, no incantations, no rites, no rituals, no dogma, and no creeds. Relax, take a deep breath. Mysticism is free. When you walk the mystical path, you need not proselytize. Mysticism is not about converting or being in competition with any thought system. It involves no missionary effort and no saving of lost souls, because no one is lost. There are only those who know and those who are sleeping and will someday awaken. In some ways, we are all like seeds long dormant. When properly nourished, we spring back to life. In fact, mystical experience is so simple that it is easily missed, misinterpreted, or misunderstood in today's hectic world. It lies hidden in most ordinary experiences and in every part of the whole. It also lies quietly in the heart and naturally finds creative expression in the most ordinary things, in babies, pets, plants, art, music, work, play, indeed in all of life. Be spontaneous, be humorous, have fun, laugh frequently, sing and dance, and play your way along your journey. In, in possession of the moment, know that the moment is everything. I like that sentence. In possession of the moment, know that the moment is everything. Be patient and kind and value your relationships, but always recognize the value of silence and solitude. Remember, no one can be truly alone when the Spirit is always present. And from the Course in Miracles, there is no place in you where there is perfect peace. There is a place in you where there is perfect peace. There is a place in you where nothing is impossible. There is a place in you where the strength of God abides. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you. Thank you, Neva. That was really good. And I think it'll probably go right along with our talk Mark's got on synchronicity. Yeah, it's kind of wonderful how synchronicity works, where people who didn't even have any idea that what the other people were doing, and we come together and each one just falls in line and supports each one along the process. It's wonderful. So thank you, Neva, and have a good time. Have a good visit with your family. Mark Wolf, as some of you know, most of you know, is an ordained minister. I lost his bio, so this is from memory. He's an ordained minister. He is he converted to Judaism as an adult. He wasn't born to it, but he is a student of the Kabbalah and the Jewish way of seeing things. And he is our brother who moved away. And we're just really glad that he comes back occasionally and shares his wisdom and his experience along the journey of life with us. And we love him. And he is my Masonic brother. And so he's very special to me. And so here we have, welcome, Brother Mark Wolf. Go ahead, Mark. We didn't lose Mark, did we? I bet he forgot that.
Okay, is that better?
That is way better.
All right, well, good morning then. Good morning, everybody. And I want you to know how happy I am to be here with all of you. And thank you. Thank you again for inviting me to come into your homes and share with you this morning. This morning, I want to do something a little different. And so I invite all of you to relax and let me tell you a story. Today, we're not going to dissect the words of the rabbi from Nazareth, and we're not going to tease the secrets out of the Torah. If you want to do that, then say the word and we'll do it another day. Because today I want to share a story. I want to share a very deeply and intimately personal story of a spiritual journey, a story of love and loss and love and loss and love and loss and the triumph of light. A parable of sorts, in that I'm going to ask each of you to relax, listen closely, and tease the secrets out for yourselves. I want to show you and I want to tell you that synchronicity is real. All right? And what is synchronicity? And anyway, we hear that word, but what is it? We're going to find out here in the next half hour or so. But the story of the journey begins with you. That's why I need to tell it. It begins with you and me here today. Well, actually, it ends with you and me here today. And like all good stories and all good parables, it ends where it begins, and it begins where it ends, all in a circle. And so to set up our story of the journey, we have to begin with my uncle. My uncle, who was my mother's only brother. My uncle's name was William Truman Hill, and he was born on November 22nd, 1914, in a tiny town in the coal mining country of Northwest Alabama in the foothills of the Appalachians. His name, to everybody, his name was Truman, but to the family, his nickname was Bit, okay? B-I-T, Bit. And so this is the story of Uncle Bit, and it's never been told before. Uncle Bit was part of the Army of Occupation that moved into and occupied Japan after the end of World War II. And Uncle Bit loved Japan, and he loved the Japanese people, and he admired their beautiful, unique, and ancient culture. Shortly after that, during the Korean War, and for a number of years after that, he was stationed at a base in Alaska, watching and listening for the missiles or the long-range bombers that our nervous nation feared would come from the Soviet Union at any moment. When Uncle Bit retired, he was a master sergeant in the infantry, and he moved back to his parents' home, my grandparents' home, in that tiny town in the now defunct and worked out coal mining country of Northwest Alabama in the foothills of the Appalachians. The thing I remember most is that Uncle Bit loved books, and he had a passion for reading, and he encouraged me to love books, and he encouraged me to love reading. And I have some of his books in a storage bin right there in Farmington. Chaucer, Shakespeare, Aristotle, Lucretius, Plato, Thomas Mann, Charles Darwin, Goethe, many others. It was Uncle Bit who would introduce me to the writings of Edgar Cayce, Aleister Crowley, Immanuel Velikovsky, and Erich von Däniken. Remember Chariots of the Gods? You know, we all read Chariots of the Gods. That was Erich von Däniken, and I read that because Uncle Bit said I would like it. It was Uncle Bit who introduced me to the Kabbalah. It was Uncle Bit who introduced me to Wicca, astrology, and Hindu mysticism. It was Uncle Bit who introduced me to the writings of Paul Twitchell and Eckankar and astral projection. It was Uncle Bit who introduced me to the writings of Yogananda, and he encouraged me to read Autobiography of a Yogi and learn to meditate. I was 6 years old. However, by the time I was 14, my mom, fearing the influence of Satan, began to ensure that my uncle and I could not be together anymore. You know, looking back, it was not that long until the summer of 1979 when we first got word that Uncle Bit had cancer. I saw Uncle Bit for the last time in early November. We talked privately for a long time. And his last words to me were, "Seek out theosophy." okay? Seek out theosophy. And I was just about to ask and say, okay, well, what's that? When my mom intervened and ushered me out of the room. Uncle Bit needs to rest, she said. And she was right. He was so exhausted after that he slept for 2 days. Uncle Bit passed away peacefully in his sleep on December 13th, 1979. Well, anyway, around this time, I was a senior in college and I was finishing my bachelor's degree in sociology at Columbus State University in Columbus, Georgia. Now, back in those days, okay, all undergrad degrees required a certain number of credits in PE. PE, you know, phys ed, physical education. We used to do that, you know. I had taken classes in fencing and I really enjoyed fencing, and I have to tell you that I was very good at it. But then I took a beginning class in swimming to continue the lessons I'd had at the YMCA, and I loved it even more because everybody knows all you need to do is show me the water. Show me the water, I'm happy. Now, we were allowed to take a PE class a second time and get credit for it if we felt we were not ready to move on to the intermediate level, and so that's what I did. I took the beginning class a second time. And after the second time, I felt confident to go on to the intermediate level, and so I enrolled. But there was now a new instructor, and his intermediate class was too advanced for me. And so I was advised to take the beginning class a third time with the new instructor. But I had to wait because now his beginning classes were all full. See, I was frustrated and annoyed because I had no idea that destiny or fate or synchronicity was in operation to change my life forever and yours as well. But I'm getting ahead of myself. But this is, after all, a story of synchronicity. So anyway, I took the beginning class again with the new instructor, and I was finally, and I waited, and I was finally able to get into the intermediate class in the spring of 1980. 3 times in the beginning class, and I finally made it to intermediate. So anyway, it was funny because as we gathered around this huge swimming pool, all the young men in the class congregated on one bench, and all the young women in the class would congregate on a different bench. Almost. You see, there was one young man who always sat in the middle of the bench with all the young women. He had a joyful, childlike laughter, and he seemed to be able to talk to all the young women at once. As I said, destiny or fate or synchronicity had stepped in. So anyway, one night in class, we were swimming timed laps, okay? We were swimming laps in the pool on a timer. And I say one night as if it was like any other night, and it was not. It was April 29th, 1980. And after swimming the length of the pool 100 times on a timer, you can imagine I was exhausted, but also very exhilarated. And when I took off my swimming goggles, I could see a sort of halo of rainbow-colored light around the light fixtures and also around the heads of my classmates. Now, I think that it was because the pressure of the goggles on my eyes just, I don't know. Anyway, it was just the goggles. I've never read anything more into it then or now. But anyway, in my exhilaration, I was feeling very silly, and I went to each of the young men in the locker room, and I said, "I can see a light around you, and I can see a light around you. I can see a light around you." Just being silly. But later, I was in the parking lot, and I was walking toward my car, And the young man, you know, the one who sat with all the young women and talked to all of them at once, he was in the parking lot and calling out to me. He said, wait a minute, wait a minute. And I stopped and he asked me a question that I will remember forever. He said, down in the locker room, when you said that you could see light around us, was that just a prismatic effect in your eyes, or were you having a spiritual experience? I said, oh. And I replied, oh, it was just in my eyes. I'm sorry, I was just feeling silly. And the young man said to me, oh, okay. You see, I'm a student of theosophy. And I've read about people who can see auras. And I thought maybe you were having a spiritual experience. Theosophy, I said. I was told to seek that out. What is that? The young man's name was James. And James and I stood in the parking lot and talked for the next 3 hours. James was in the fine arts program as an aspiring artist, and I was in sociology, and our classes were literally on opposite sides of the campus. You see, we would have never met, never, except that I had to go back to beginning swimming a third time and then wait in order to get into the intermediate class, which is where we just happened to meet. James and I became very close very quickly, which is an understatement. We fell in love. The sight of him actually made my heart skip a beat. The sight of him made me gasp for breath. A thing no one knows until now, I would go on to wear hard contact lenses in the mid-'80s. And they said, oh, you have to go to the drugstore and you get the drops that lubricate the lenses. I didn't need any drops because all I had to do was think of James, and my heart swelled and my eyes filled with tears. That's how I lubricated my hard contact lenses. Didn't need any drops. I just thought of James, and the lenses lubricated themselves. Not surprisingly, James and I tried living together, but after 2 years decided we just couldn't live together. And so we tried living separately, but realized we just could not stand to be apart. So it went back and forth until finally in February of 1986, James said that, oh, we needed to see other people. We would not be together anymore, and that the relationship had ended. I remember that night, I had a pistol in the bedroom. And if I had had ammunition, the story of Synchronicity would have stopped that night, because I could not then imagine my life without James. Even so, we still were not able to stand to be apart. I was living in Atlanta. You see, James had already got a job in Atlanta and had moved, and then I got a job with Fulton County specifically so that we could be together. By 1992, I was in my third year of ministerial training with the Atlanta Church of Religious Science. And that was when James, very casually, very nonchalantly, informed me that, oh, by the way, he had been diagnosed with HIV. And his T-cell count was low enough that we knew that the virus was alive and well. Well, I instinctively put on my brave social worker face, and I've talked with him about medical care and support groups and the available services and support networks and what kinds of referrals I could get for him. I was, after all, inside the system, and I took care of hundreds of young men with HIV in the same way. but privately, I cried. Then I wept, and then I screamed. And when there were no more tears left, the blood vessels in my nose burst, and I wept blood. Because I could not then imagine my life without James. Anyway, James started to spend a lot of time at a New Age bookstore on the north side of Atlanta. It's called the Phoenix and Dragon. Remember New Age bookstores? Weren't they just amazing to go? You kind of smell the incense and look at the books and stuff. It was much better than Amazon. So anyway, he started spending a lot of time at the Phoenix and Dragon bookstore, and that's when destiny or fate or synchronicity stepped in again. In 1994, James had a reading with a petite young woman named Nikki. I met Nikki. And Nikki, in trance, said to James, "Seek out the voice of the gatekeepers." Okay? Seek out the voice of the gatekeepers. James asked me what I thought about it, and I said, gatekeepers? Who knows? I said, how much did you pay for that? Gatekeepers? I don't know. Let's just be alert and see what happens. I don't know what to say. At any rate, then one day I was at work at the John F. Kennedy Center in West Atlanta, and I was eating lunch at my desk, and I was looking through a tabloid newspaper that was available in Atlanta at the time. It was called Creative Loafing. And near the back cover of the Creative Loafing tabloid, I found an ad, a small display ad. And the ad said, Molly Rowland channels Saint Germain. Hear the voice of the gatekeepers. And I thought, oh, gatekeepers? And I immediately called James, and he made an appointment and had a reading with Molly. James and I listened to the cassette of his reading over and over and over until we made a big decision. And we drove to Shenandoah, Virginia, where Molly lived. And James had a second reading with her, and I had a first reading. Then we decided to meet Molly again in Knoxville, Tennessee, where James would have a third reading with her, and I would have a second. You see, Molly traveled to different places, and she did readings in city after city after city, working her way west and then working her way back east to Virginia, where she lived at the time. And Molly made a very curious statement about her travels out west. Molly said, I like Durango, but I love Farmington. Then Molly looked directly at me and she said it again. I like Durango, but I love Farmington. And in my reading, Molly channeled an entity that said its name was the Master Kuthumi, the same Master Kuthumi who is referred to in the theosophical writings of Helena Blavatsky, of Charles Leadbeater, Jeffrey Hudson, and others. And while Molly was in trance, the Master Kuthumi said these words to me. He said, Master, take you a map of these United States and fold it in half. Put your finger on a place in the western half and go there. Well, I was disappointed. It made no sense. He said, what map? Western half? You want me to do what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going. I live in Atlanta. I'm going to stay living in Atlanta. How much did I pay for this? And I was not cool with it. Anyway, after Knoxville, Molly moved on in her travels, and I did not see her ever again. Meanwhile, I finished the 5th and final year of ministerial training in the spring of 1994, and I began to think about how I would launch my own ministry. At the same time, we were looking forward to James's 40th birthday on August 22nd. And so as we got closer to the end of August, James very casually, very nonchalantly mentioned to me that, oh, by the way, he would be moving to Farmington, New Mexico in September. And I said, you're going where? Where's that? Farming what? And I instinctively put on my brave social worker face and I said, look, your medical care is here, your doctor's here, you're set up with Grady Hospital here, you have an apartment here, you have family, you have friends, you have all your support networks here. You can't go off to a place that you've never even been to and start over. You can't do that. But the thing was, I simply could not then imagine my life without James. So we had his 40th birthday, and James gave me his blessing on the new relationship I had embarked on with Matthew. James borrowed his dad's truck and loaded it up and left for Farmington, New Mexico. Meanwhile, I was also launching my new ministry. You see, you have to think back. Think back. It was the mid-90s. You know, we were all excited. It's Windows 95. And Microsoft Publisher 3.0. You know, we've arrived. And everybody had a newsletter. Say, well, you know, just send me your newsletter. I said, well, hey, have you got a newsletter? Well, I'll tell you what, I'll send you my newsletter. I said, well, I'm editor of the newsletter, and everybody had a newsletter. And so I thought, well, I'll start with a newsletter. And so my newsletter featured articles and meditations that I wrote. You know, it was pretty good. But it was basically an ad. It was an ad for my ministry, and it got me connected with a number of speaking engagements around the Southeast, as well as a tentative job offer in Charlotte, North Carolina. And James was on my mailing list as soon as he got settled out in Farmington. And it did not take long before James found a little metaphysical church with an interesting name, something to the effect of Fellowship of Spirit or something like that. Does that ring a bell? And so it happened that in early 1995, James handed a copy of my newsletter to someone named Randy Barnes. And I wonder if anybody's heard of Randy Barnes. Anyway, in February, Randy called me at home and booked Matthew and me to come to Farmington, where I would be guest speaker at this little place with an interesting name, something to the effect of Fellowship of Spirit. So just so you have a face, let's see, this is James. This picture from the late 80s, just so you have a face to go with the name. And James was very excited that we were coming and we were planning to arrive more or less mid-April. Anyway, I got the call when I was at work. James's older sister, Susan, was the one who called me. And I was at work in West Atlanta, Monday afternoon, March 27th. James had collapsed. He was in the hospital at San Juan Regional Medical Center. He was very sick. And Susan said if there was something I wanted to say to him, I should say it now. And I gave her a message to relay to him, a message only he and I would understand. And James passed away quietly in his sleep on the morning of April 1st. And Fellowship of Spirit had a memorial service for him. Thank you for that. And Matthew and I arrived about 2 weeks later, and I would have to imagine my life without James in it. Fast forward, and Matthew and I sold my house in Atlanta and moved to Farmington in February 1996, essentially folding the map in half, and going there. And we had many adventures with Fellowship of Spirit, but that's another love story for another day. As I said, the story today begins with us, and it ends with us, and it begins with us. I was close to James's mother until she passed away in June of 2017. She said that I was her son. I remember when her name was Betty, and I remember when Betty called me and told me that she had seen this movie called Brokeback Mountain. And I said, Betty, I'm glad you saw that movie because that movie was James and me. I can't live with you, but I cannot live without you. And Betty said, I know, sugar. James was hard to live with. And I said, yes, ma'am, he was, but so was I. And I said, Betty, I need you to know that in the corner of my closet, I have one of his shirts on a hanger hanging underneath one of mine. And it was there long before there was a movie called Brokeback Mountain. And this is James's necktie today. And that's the story of synchronicity and how you and I came to be together today. You see, synchronicity is real and you don't know when it's happening. Seek out theosophy, seek the voice of the gatekeepers, fold a map in half, crazy things. And somebody in the parking lot says, wait up, wait. And you don't know. Because we are not able to see how the universal mind is busy connecting us to the people that we are going to love. We cannot see how the universal mind is busy connecting us to the people who are going to love us. I was talking to my son the other day. His name is Justin, but his middle name is James. And I said, son, here's the thing. Your soulmate and the love of your life is out there, okay? Right now, today, she's out there somewhere. And one day, a day on the calendar, a place on the map, and you two are going to meet. So every day, say to yourself, it could be today. Because it could be today. You see, today, the world needs your light. The world needs your love. There is somebody who needs your forgiveness. There is somebody who needs resolution. Today, somebody is praying a prayer for guidance and needing an answer. Somebody's praying a prayer for healing right now. Somebody's praying a prayer for a miracle. And the guidance or the healing or the answer or the miracle can happen, and it could be today. And it may be your light. It may be your love. It may be your forgiveness that will make it happen. You see, you may be the answer to somebody's prayer today. That's all synchronicity is. That's all it is. You're the answer to my prayer. I'm the answer to yours. Synchronicity is simply the engine through which the universal mind gets us connected and lines up events so that we'll meet and answer one another's prayer and heal one another. I'm the answer to yours, and you're the answer to mine. And so we have to be ready to help. We have to be ready to love. We have to be ready to forgive, and we have to be ready to be a blessing. Because that's all synchronicity is. And so let's be willing to help one another. Let's be mindful to love one another, to share with one another, to be kind and gentle to one another, and to forgive one another. Because you don't know when a single word, a single sentence, a single wait up could open the door of destiny or fate or synchronicity for someone else or for yourself. And it could be today. Now, speaking of today, this is the eve of Yom Kippur, and may we all be inscribed in the book of life for a year of peace, of joy, prosperity, good health, and blessing. Thank you, Fellowship of Spirit, that we're all together. I love you.
Thank you, Mark. Everybody, big hand. You know, it seems like in the mid-90s there, when I was actively sundancing and I was running sweat lodges, and there was one night that Brandy brought a couple of young men to my house, and it was dark. And I don't remember a lot about it. And you and I spent a lot of time together, but we have never talked about that. But
That's true.
we spent hours and hours studying Masons, but we never talked about that you came to my house long before, 10 years before we got together at Fellowship.
Yes.
And I ran a sweat lodge, and I don't remember what happened, but it was meaningful for everyone. Do you remember that?
I do.
Isn't that sort of synchronicity?
You would think.
You would think that would be part of something like that. Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much for being in our lives and for sharing your story with us today. We greatly appreciate it. We feel like even though you're far away, you are closer to us today than you ever have been. Thank you. Does anyone want to go ahead and unmute and ask Mark or say things if you want to? Now's the time.
Yes, Mark, thank you so much for that story. I've always been curious, and you're filling in the pages one by one in such a beautiful fashion that our relationship is synchronicity. Thank you.
Thank you too, Mark. This is Annie. It's so good to see you. I wish I
You
was
too.
there for hugs. Wish I was there for hugs. Thank you
too.
for sharing, dear.
Mark, this is Marion.
Hi, Marion.
Story beautifully told, and your love for James just came through in a beautiful manner. And I thank you very much for introducing me to him and for sharing him with us. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Hi, Mark. This is Carol. Thank you very much for the talk. And you almost made me cry. There was so much love there. Thank you. I wish you would come back. Come back to Farmington.
Just say the word.
Now. Thank you.
It's a master
Word.
Yes.
Anyone else? Well, that's great. It's just wonderful, the people that come and share with us, and we're really glad that Mark was with us today. Fred, you want to lead us in another song?
There we go. I say Mark is a humble.
I've got peace. I remember I in my oh, my soul. That's given me so much love. It's like a mountain. I've got love like a mountain. I've got love like a mountain in my soul. I've got love like a mountain. I've got love like a mountain. I've got love like a mountain in my soul. In my soul. In my soul. That's giving me so much joy. It's like a fountain. Oh, this joy, it's just like a fountain. This joy feels like a fountain welling up in my soul. It's just like a fountain. Oh, this joy is like a wonderful fountain. God, this joy is like a fountain in my oh, in my soul. In my soul. That gives me such peace. It's like a river. God, peace. It's just like a river. Lord. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. Thank you. That's good.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you.
Welcome.
I just wanted to say, did anybody see Sarah's beautiful daughter with her uplifted praying hands during that song?
Yes,
It was beautiful.
it was.
Thank you, Sarah, for sharing your kids with us.
I wanted to mention, I checked for the YouTube channel, and Linda's talk is not on there. Apparently, we don't save as many as we used to on our other channel before it switched. So if anybody wants it, send me an email. I have the address, and I'll send it, or I can send it out in a group email to everybody that's on the list.
So what you're saying is we can access the YouTube, but we cannot access that particular talk.
Yes.
Oh,
And
what a
I
shame.
sent it to Joyce. I sent the link to Joyce so she could watch the Collateral Beauty.
Oh, so we can see the Collateral Beauty on the link.
No.
Oh,
No, if you go to Fellowship of Spirit and look at the recordings, she isn't listed.
okay.
But I did some hunting and I found it. So I sent her the link.
Oh, okay. So there is a place it can be heard.
Yes, you can play the link. It's just not on Fellowship of
There are
Spirit.
there are two pages, Chris. One was Fellowship of Spirit. The new page is Fellowship of Spirit 1. That's where all the new recordings over the last 6 months are on that page, not the old one.
You
Then
better.
that's the link we need sent out then.
That's the one I've been sending to you.
Okay, well, I've only been able to find like 3 or 4 talks on link.
I'm subscribed to Fellowship of Spirit, the newest one, and it only goes like 6 or 7.
Well, back to the first of the year, George's talks when he was sending them, because the other one got filled up. So they automatically switched us over to the new one. Anyway, I will check it because I see all of them on when I'm posting, I see all of them. So I'll check it out and see what can be done. Okay. I'll make sure that everybody, and then I'll send it to you and you can send it out to everyone so everyone can see all of the ones that we have recorded.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
That if we have to actually pay YouTube for that privilege to keep accumulating them, then I vote that we do.
Okay. For announcements, we are going to have a town hall meeting after the conclusion of this ceremony, this service today. And so if you want, we ask that you would hang around and talk about some business of the church. We have some things we want to bring you up to date with, and we want to get your input on some things, especially about, how you feel about us going back to face-to-face church and when that maybe can possibly happen. We want to talk about that today. Anybody else have any announcements other than we want to thank you for continuing to send your donations into fellowship. If you've been doing that, we really appreciate it because we do have ongoing expenses, even though we were not in the physical building. We thank you for those monies because it helps us to go on, and we're trying to gather together money when we do get back together that we can have some money to operate on. So is there anything else anybody would like to say before we put a benediction on this and continue on? I was talking earlier about a sanctuary, and that's what I was going to say was, when you have a message of the heart and love, that's what makes us a sanctuary. All the politics and all the crap that's going on in the world went away for an hour while we were listening to Mark to share his story. I never had a single thought about what might happen in the world. It was actually
Amen.
Thinking of his thing, and that's why we're a sanctuary. We get a little rest from the worries of the world.
It's unmuted.
Oh. So
hi, this is Steve. Thanks for letting me join today. I really enjoyed it, and special thanks to the guitar player.
Yeah, Fred's amazing.
Glad you were here, Steve. We really enjoyed you coming. We hope you'll come back. And you can come without Annie, or you can come with her. It doesn't matter. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I also want to thank Fred too, because he helped me out this week with my computer, and everything seems to be running just stellar. Thank you, Fred.
Okay. Cynthia Robinson, where are you? Would you like to give us a benediction this morning?
Certainly. Father, Mother God, as we sit before you, we thank you for the experiences that we have had while we have been here on earth. We are truly grateful. We hold close to our hearts the Christ consciousness within each and every one of us, and welcome awakening more and more to that Christ consciousness within us. And we want to thank Mark for being here, for the wonderful talk he gave on synchronicity, and love. So mote it be. Amen. And so it is.
Namaste. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording now, and we'll take a little bit of a break and then come back. Thank each and every one of you for coming today and sharing with us the love of Fellowship of Spirit. Sarah, your daughter was absolutely beautiful. We love her. We love just like we love you. And so there you go. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. Have a good, safe, blessed week.